formats, right? We're talking today about Big Mouse.
Yes.
Big Mouse, Disney, and Walt Disney, the man who started it all.
Yeah.
But, I mean, yeah, it's hard to really overstate, like, the Leviathan status of this company now and, like, its hegemonic control over our, like, cultural institutions and, yeah, just, like, our culture in general, because it's seeped beyond kind of the realm of the entertainment industry from which it sprung and is now this, like, global octopus that sells dreams to children, and as we've noted before, increasingly to full-ass grown adults.
Yes. Well, I think, that's part of the plan of, like, the sort of eternal childhood, I think. There's, I mean, it's... like, Disney is, their headquarters are the Magic Kingdom, Disney, it's all about Disney magic, and even though, like, I mean, I guess he was in, like Demolay Society or whatever, Walt Disney.
Yeah, he was.
So,
like, Masonic youth,
Masonic
Boy
like
Scouts.
Masonic Boy Scouts, pretty
though.
much, like, other than the actual Boy Scouts, which the actual Boy Scouts kind of are the Masonic Boy Scouts. They're like the extra Masonic Boy Scouts.
Sorry for repeating myself.
Yeah, but he was more of, like, a straight and narrow, though greatly, like, deranged individual. He wasn't, like, a profligate occultist the way that, like, some of, like, his contemporaries were. But I don't know. He was, like, steep in that bullshit. He was into Nazism.
Oh, we're gonna get into it today,
like,
because I mean, one thing to say just off the bat,
there is something very alchemical, something, like, deeply primordial about the Disney magic that
the fantasia that they've been able to project across the world. Mm-hmm. Yes, and we should say up front, like, this is an interesting and tricky episode to do, because we could talk all day about Disney this, Disney that, comment on whatever movies or TV shows or, streaming things they're basically releasing right now, or talk about how they're getting tangled up with, like, Governor DeSantis in Florida.
Right.
And, being forced to take a stand on political issues and
blah,
blah,
which
blah.
Is all a psyop by them, in my opinion.
By who?
Or maybe, like, sort of an improvisational psyop, like maybe they stumbled a little bit, like, in the process, like maybe they didn't expect certain aspects of it, but I think that, like, they have the calculus worked out and it will be, like, to their benefit. Like, this has kind of happened before, as is kind of
it's true. I think it does kind of
reflected.
redound to their benefit.
Yeah, they know, like, when to, like, they know what side of, like, culture war issues to bet on. They don't really have, like, any principles in that domain, I don't think. Really?
No, not in 2022. I mean, they do have, there is a certain core set of principles.
Yes, but those core principles, I guess that's true. But those core principles are not, like, wokeness or, like, destroying like, American society. They're all about, like, American nationalism, like, American supremacy, and, like, a bizarre, like, nostalgic, twisted image of, like, a satanic, like, American empire. I mean, really, Disneyland is, like, Disneyland and Disney World are both, like, the sort of utopic space where you can see, like, the politics of and their movies as well, which is all part of this sort of matrix of ideas, this, like, imaginal domain that is all vaudeville art and everything, but, like, you can see, like, their politics kind of modeled in the landscape of Disneyland. Like, it's not leftist or whatever the fuck, like, they're saying.
Main Street USA and all of those little, like, medieval German castles and stuff.
Yeah, it's an American Main Street with, like, a castle at the end of it is pretty much, like, the image of Disney's politics. Like, a Gilded Age, like, suburban Main Street that, like, never really existed.
With, like, Axel Wenner-Gren's, like, Alweg monorail, like, zooming by on the horizon.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, if we, like, you think about Disney's lands, they really, like, convey the whole picture. You got, like, Frontierland and, you got the Magic Kingdom or whatever Main Street. Yeah, Tomorrowland.
Which was, I believe, created on Werner von Braun land, essentially.
Yeah, basically. Yes. Yeah.
And Jungle Cruise Land.
Yeah.
Which
is, like, colonial land. Yeah, Frontierland is, like, colonizing the West land. Jungle Land is, like, colonizing the Third World land. And I don't know what Adventureland is. Maybe that's like colonizing the natural world, subjugating nature.
Pirates of the Caribbean, like suppressing Haiti.
Yeah.
You can kind of see it all throughout. And like Disney, though, I'll confess, like I've never been to Disney World, but growing up in California, I did go to Disneyland in Anaheim a few times as a child. And I was swept up in the magical kingdom and thought it was fun. But I think ever since young adulthood, I've started to cast a little more of a sussed out, skeptical eye on just the whole Disney vibe, you know? Like, and especially over the last 10 or so years, like being in LA, just watching Disney just rack up like win after win after win and gobble up every single IP that sort of means anything that Hollywood has produced, you know, in the last 50 years.
Right. Well, because
like
they
Star
have to
Wars,
control
Marvel.
The imagination. Like anything that, is...
Like the mouse like broke out of its habitat and started basically doing the same thing that Disney had done with its own creations, like Mickey Mouse and all the other characters you love, which is to say, like vigilantly guard the copyrights, like down to the point where I think in the 90s they got in some trouble for threatening to sue like a couple daycare centers in Florida that had painted Mickey Mouse on their walls.
Right.
They're like, that's unauthorized, you know, like, and it's funny to think because I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I actually don't know the finer points of copyright law, but generally speaking, when you create like a character or you write a novel or something, what is it now? Like 80 something years, you know, after
like
your death?
After the death of the author, something. Yeah, well, they've done that. Yeah, that's because of Disney. It originally was like a very short window of time. But like
that's right. They did play a role.
The Mickey Mouse law is like what it's called, or the Mickey Mouse exception, where like that keeps getting pushed back to accommodate Mickey. I feel like there was recently like a big change where like some major character did enter the public domain, which was like, you know, after a long while. But yeah, they keep pushing it back. I don't think that Mickey will ever.
Well, now I'm actually looking. Now this is interesting because we're in 2022 right now, and I think the thing we're talking about here is the Copyright Term Extension Act. So allegedly, Mickey Mouse will enter the public domain in 2024 or afterward, depending on the date of the product. So that means because Walt Disney died in 1966, so I think 2024. We're only 2 years away from, but I think, you know, are they going? I think the thing is like the original Mickey Mouse from Steamboat Willie will go to the public domain, but
that's Mickey. I mean, that's the iconic Mickey Mouse look. I don't think
it
that
took
will
a few
be allowed
years
to happen.
It took a few years for Mickey to really take shape and become the Mickey that we all recognize.
But Steamboat Willie is Mickey.
That is the first Mickey.
Very much Mickey.
Yes. Yeah. And one thing is that there's a few books that we kind of went through today to kind of cobble up some info on Disney, which I was going to say earlier. That's what makes it interesting during this episode is because, like, despite, you know, we could talk all day about Disney this, Disney that, but the actual information about the founder of the company, Walt Disney, and even like a lot of the early history of the studio, there's like only one kind of official sanitized version of that history that Disney puts out, and it jealously guards any other kind of information about Walt Disney that might, you know, cast some doubt on, you know, his public image as like America's uncle who just like loves magic and like dreams and stuff like that. So it's like there's entire things in his life that are kind of a big deal that like you're not going to get if you read an authorized biography of Walt Disney or see one of those movies they put out like Saving Mr. Banks or some shit where like sus Tom Hanks like plays Walt Disney as just like this one-dimensional like happy guy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, like Mr. Rogers. Yeah, whatever the fuck
stupid.
It was. Yeah, so stupid. But, you know, if you start to dig, there's like only a couple books out there that have dared to go up against the mouse. And I mean, since this is an allegedly free country, Disney can't exactly stop them, but they're pretty obscure. They're like all out of print now. I mean, I think the two big ones that we're going to talk about today. One is Walt Disney, Hollywood's Dark Prince by Marc Eliot, which came out in the early 90s. And I had a weird thing where I swear to God, I looked for it online on like Archive and other places, and like nobody had it, and it was like out of print. And I thought, damn, Disney got this one, like, because this one really is like, from the reviews I read about it at the time, was like a reckless character assassination of, you know, like full of conspiracy theories and blah blah blah. You know, people were really mad, but I thought, oh, that sounds up our alley. But then late last night, before we started recording, I did find a copy on archive.org, which anybody can go and borrow for an hour at a time.
Yeah.
And that does, I didn't get to like read all of it closely, but I read enough to fill in some of the, you know, interesting gaps in Walt Disney's, you know, official bio that are really, really some crazy shit. But then the other book that I think we both read that was the original impetus, I think even when we did our first episode and we're just talking shit about Disney, I think around that time I bought a number of fringy looking books that I found, you know, cheaply online. And one of them was this from a returning SJ author, not exactly in the pantheon of heroes, but kind of like in the two mic section of the SJ library. We're of course talking about William J. Casey Fellow at the Hoover Institute, Peter Schweizer, and in the 90s, I guess after he wrote Victory, which we did a whole Contra episode on, but before, you know, he sort of busted out with like Clinton Cash and like all these new kind of muckraking conservative books, he had this one that I found and I just had to buy called Disney, the Mouse Betrayed, Greed, Corruption, and Children at Risk from 1999. So he and his wife wrote this, and just from like the summary of it, I was like, ooh, okay, let's go. I know he's conservative. He's probably got an axe to grind or something, but I bought it, and then, you know, I hadn't read it, but I went to look for like a PDF version to send you when we started researching this episode. And I think it must be because of the current controversies, but a copy of Disney the Mouse Betrayed on Amazon is like $400 now. So it's like, I don't know, all these conservatives are just buying up whatever copies are still floating around, which probably weren't many. I don't think this book sold very well. So since we've gone on a Schweizer ride before, we decided to see what he had to say. And
of a more problematic read than Victory, because Victory is more of like just like a frothing confession. You know, like it's just like, Whereas this is a bit more like, I mean, it's like very like, like 90s era, like conservative at many points. But there's still like some good stuff in here, like some good like innuendos.
Good innuendos. And, you know, he does rake up some muck about Disney that is kind of good. And of course, I think we kind of almost have to approach Disney. Disney is almost like a DID kind of like personality A, personality B type entity, you know, as a corporation, where it kind of has this like old school, almost like, you know, no offense to the Mormons listening, but like I feel like almost like a para-Mormon 1950s like Technicolor, like you said, like Main Street leading to a castle type, like weird, almost like culty aesthetic to it. That's like, and always very like traditional values and like good, clean family fun, like very like middle American Protestant, upright, blah, blah, blah. But then you have kind of the more modern Disney after Walt Disney dies, and when they finally get their first outsider CEO, Michael Eisner, in the 80s. So then you get what Schweizer pretty much exclusively focuses on in his book, which is like the woke codification of Disney. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, in the 90s, it's a little bit different, because I even remember this a little bit. Like, I remember the backlash to stuff. Like, obviously, like, we know Disney owns, like, almost, like, every media company or outfit, like, you know, or a lot of them. But I remember in the 90s, like, Miramax, you know, like, that distributed movies. Like, I remember Dogma was a really controversial one, the Kevin Smith movie. Like, as dumb as it is, like, it riled a bunch of people up.
So was Clerks, though. Clerks was controversial also because of the oral sex, like, scene or whatever.
But yeah, I mean, Dogma for more so for obvious reasons, I think. Like it's
Dogma was seen as almost like a doubling down on the controversy, which is really Miramax's like bread and butter. I think that what they said is like the tagline of all Miramax movies are like greed, sex, murder, betrayal, or something like that.
Yeah.
And, that, of course, we probably don't have to mention, was Harvey Weinstein's company.
Yeah. I think that, like, it started off being kind of like, it's interesting. I mean, in many ways, like, what we're kind of seeing now, like, this, like, current sort of Disney backlash is, in some respects, an echo of that. But
definitely
there is a bit of it's a bit more refined in some ways because, like, the Disney brand itself was kept separate, and you kind of had to, like, make the connection that, oh yeah, like, this is Disney, and then, like, for people to sort of be like, Disney is making this, and it's like, well, no, it's Miramax, but to sort of say Miramax is Disney, but now it's like, oh, well, in Frozen they don't get married or something, like, whatever, like Jordan Peterson crying about something like that, like, it's not a true fairy tale. Meanwhile, like, all these fucking, like, old Disney movies are, like, completely, like, evil, and, like, their messaging are, like, sick and, like, weird. We'll talk about them. Like, Mickey himself is, like, like an imp from the Battles of Hell, but, like...
Yeah, Kenneth Anger's, like, perception of Mickey is kind of, really is, like, the true essence of the original Mickey was the kind of Kenneth Anger impian version.
Yes, for sure. There's a reason why Kenneth Anger, like, loves Mickey Mouse so much. Like, it's not...
and Michael Aquino. Why do so many Satanists love Disney?
It's like for obvious reasons, and they have the same, like, grievances where, like, the classics were better, it's like Disney in a way has, like, because they have this image, they have, like, this sainted, special, exceptional place, the custodians of innocence, like Disneyland, nothing bad can happen at Disneyland, or whatever, like, it's the happiest, no one can be sad in the happiest place on earth, and everyone's a kid forever, and there's no trouble of, like, the adult world. There's no, there's no crime on Main Street USA. There's no poor people on Main Street USA. And there's no black people for most of it.
For access to the full-length episode, subscribe to the Hour of Frequency at patreon.com/subliminaljihad.
Your